Hello, I'm Malcolm. Welcome to edition 1979 of the Enfield Talking newspaper. With me on the reading team for Thursday, the 13th of November 2014, are Elizabeth, Katherin, and Evann, with Jason on the controls. And the items we'll be reading are the copyright of our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser, and the Enfield Independent. This week's local stories start with accounts of the way Enfield commemorated the 1918 armistice. But before we go to the papers, we've got one or two reminders and special announcements. Evann, you've got something about telephone befriending.
Yes, I have. You might have heard of the Thomas Pocklington Trust. It is a registered charity providing housing and support for people with sight loss in the UK. The charity was created from a legacy left in 1935 by Thomas Pocklington, who had experienced temporary blindness when young. Do you like chatting to someone new and different? Do you want regular contact with someone over the phone? Then you might like to know about their telephone befriending service. This service is available to people with sight loss aged 18 years and above living in the UK. It's completely free. You will be paired up with one of their trained volunteers, and they will call you once a week for about 20 to 30 minutes for a chat. The Thomas Pocklington Trust has plenty of spaces available, so if you are interested, please contact the Volunteer Services Coordinator, brackets befriending, on 020 8996 1930 or befriending at pocklington-trust.org.uk. I'll repeat that again. The number is 020 8996 1930 or befriending at pocklington-trust.org.uk.
Thanks, Evann. Well, I'm sure you know by now that you have a listener's representative, Diane de Jersey, who will be happy to help you with any problems or concerns you have about your talking newspaper. You can call Diane on 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578. And now, with the first item of news, here's Elizabeth.
An exceptionally high number of people turned out to commemorate 100 years since the start of the First World War. Crowds fell silent for Remembrance Sunday as a number of services took place across the borough. The Royal British Legion in Enfield held its parade in the afternoon, beginning at Trinity Street, Enfield at 2:45, before marching through Enfield town to Chase Green War Memorial, where a service of remembrance was held and the wreaths laid. Enfield Borough Council leader, Councillor Doug Taylor, said, "Once again, residents of Enfield turned out in large numbers to remember all those who served or gave their lives in conflict for their country, and to commemorate the lives of those we have lost and show their commitment to our servicemen and women." This year's services were particularly poignant as they mark 100 years since the start of World War I and the conflict which intimately involved Enfield and scarred not only this borough but the whole of the United Kingdom. Nick Dubois, Enfield North MP, who attended the Enfield Town service, believed that the turnout was higher than usual. He said, "I've been privileged as Enfield North MP to attend on behalf of constituents the War Memorial Service for the past 5 years. This year, however, it seemed we had an exceptionally high turnout from residents, scouts, voluntary services and residents who wanted to pay their respects to those that gave their lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have today." A parade went through Southgate High Street at 10:30 a.m. before a service at St Andrew's Church in Chase Side. The Royal British Legion in Edmonton also held a parade at the War Memorial on the Green. The procession then headed to Croyland Road for a speech from the Deputy Mayor. Mayor of Enfield, Councillor Ali Bakir, said, "This week we stand united to remember the courageous men and women who have served our country, defended our freedoms and kept us safe. We remember all those who had fallen and those who have risked their lives to protect us. We owe each and every member of our armed forces and the families who support them a tremendous debt, one that can never be repaid. And on behalf of Enfield, I'd like to pay tribute to their bravery and resolve. Paul Simmons, the volunteer responsible for scouting in Enfield and Edmonton, added, "I was pleased at the large number of young people who supported the Royal British Legion parades in Edmonton and Enfield, and proud of their smart turnout and the superb performances from the Scout Band."
A school has brought World War I history into the present day for pupils and parents with a special themed week. The commemorations at St Michael's Church of England Primary School in Brigadier Hill, Enfield, included a service performed by Father Stephen Taylor, Vicar of St Michael's, against the dramatic red backdrop of handmade poppies, all created by the pupils. The vicar was later presented with wreaths made by pupils. Each school year took part in different, innovative ways. Year 1 made parkin, a traditional cake from the period, while Year 2 learned about the role of animals in battle. Year 4 also learned about the importance of animals in the war, with a particular focus on horses, and went on a route march through Hilly Fields. They also made the selection of wreaths which were presented to Father Stephen. Years 3 and 5 wrote letters and character to understand what it was like for soldiers writing home to their families from the trenches, and read them out to each other. Year 6 created some poetic art and made wire-framed models of trenches and soldiers, with the kind help of one parent who happened to be a sculptor. The pupils were able to learn about their ancestors and previous school pupils who had lost their lives in battle through the school's old logbooks and through its museum archive, put together with the help of grandparent Anne Holland, confirming his first name and age, Garrett. The archive included medals, photographs, a soldier's diary, helmet and an original writing desk. Anne Holland, St Michael's deputy headmistress, said, "This all started off because of the school's memorial boards, the logbook and the school registers, which have entries dating back to the 1880s. The memorial boards show ex-pupils who lost their lives in the war. It's been the most fantastic week. The parents flocked to the museum because it was full of amazing artefacts. Some of the pupils live in the houses that these men who died once lived in. The Year 3 pupils had done an exercise where they wrote letters as if from the trenches, and Year 5 pretended to be the parents of the Year 3s and responded. I walked into the hall the other day and they were lying on the mats as if in the trenches, acting this out. It was the most moving thing. It brought tears to my eyes." On Friday, everybody came into school in costume. The pupils have all learned so much. Nick Dubois MP posted on Twitter, "One of the finest school projects I've ever seen."
School children gathered at Forty Hall to remember those who died in the First World War. Pupils of Merry Hills Primary in World's End Lane, Enfield, placed poppy windmills at the estate to spell "Lest We Forget" as a tribute to those who fell in the war on Armistice Day. November the 11th marks the end of the First World War, and a 2-minute silence is respected to remember those who died. An ode of remembrance was read out by leader of the council, Councillor Doug Taylor, and photos of the fallen from Enfield Grammar School's Book of Remembrance were also shown. The event at Forty Hall, Enfield, finished with the playing of the last post.
As thousands flocked to the Tower of London to marvel at the ceramic poppies flowing through the ancient moat, students in Enfield were making their own memorial to the fallen soldiers of World War I. Year 7 and 8 students at Oasis Academy, Hadley, South Street, Ponders End, spent a day making peace poppies. They then stitched the handmade flowers together into huge garlands that adorned the entrance hall of the academy. The garlands were looped together to form the legend, "We will remember them," as a tribute to those who died in the war. The crafting exercise formed part of an enrichment day in the school last week, which was devoted to peace studies. According to a spokeswoman from the school, the day was designed as a way to teach students the background to why war broke out exactly 100 years ago, and to remember and appreciate the sacrifice that many people made in order to secure our freedom.
A group of residents is lobbying the council to set up a permanent cafe in one of the biggest parks in the borough. After the temporary mobile caravan that served golfers, walkers, runners and cyclists in the park closed last week, walkers are distraught that they will be left once again with nowhere to gather, chat and get some shelter from wind and rain. Tony Claydon, the chairman of the Friends of Hilly Fields, over the road from Whitewebb's Park in Clay Hill, has told the Advertiser that walkers are fed up with the state of provision in the park. There used to be a purpose-built cafe in the park, but when it burned down, it was only ever replaced with these mobile cafe units, he said. You can understand why the young guy who ran that mobile stand didn't want to tender for the council's licence again, because in winter, who wants to sit with a coffee outdoors? Now there is no provision in the park for caffeine fiends, and Tony believes that it's not just making an impact on the social aspect of the park. It's hard for park users, to put it bluntly, he said. There are no toilets in the second biggest park in Enfield. Since the toilets were taken out of Tucker's Field and Hilly Fields lost its toilets, 4 parks in that area with no toilets. What are walkers, runners or cyclists supposed to do? However, Tony believes that there could be hope on the horizon, as he thinks plans could be afoot with the council, with an application being submitted for a permanent, purpose-built cafe on the site. An Enfield Council spokesman couldn't say categorically if this speculation was correct, but he added, "We're currently in the process of looking at wider opportunities on the site and will make a decision on longer-term cafe provisions in due course."
Residents in Edmonton are facing a severe housing crisis, with prices reaching nearly 11 times the average salary, according to research by campaigners. The Homes for Britain coalition of 80 housing associations found that Edmonton ranks 84th in the list of most unaffordable constituencies across England, with average house prices spiking to 10.7 times people's take-home pay. The campaign is hoping to keep the issue on the agenda in the run-up to next May's general election, and have nominated today as a National Housing Day to draw attention to the crisis. That was Wednesday, the 12th of November. Edmonton MP Andy Love said that more needed to be done to tackle the situation, to give people a chance to get their first step on the housing ladder. It's no surprise that Edmonton ranks so highly in terms of housing affordability, he said. A vast proportion of my constituents have no hope of being able to afford to buy a property and are struggling to pay the extortionate rents despite being in work. The Labour MP welcomed his party's pledge to build 200,000 new homes by 2020 if it wins the election. He added that nationally, homelessness had risen by 37% in the past 4 years, with a doubling of housing benefit claimants to 22.5%. Enfield North's Conservative MP Nick Dubois said, "While the population of London has been growing, governments of all colours have failed to build enough houses over the last 30 years, which is the root cause of the very difficult housing issue we face today." He urged Enfield Council to get a move on to secure funding for the 5,000 new homes planned at the Meridian Water development in Edmonton. He said, "We have a Conservative Mayor, Boris Johnson, with money from a Conservative Chancellor, George Osborne, with a plan and resources for building the affordable houses we need, including at Meridian Water. But the Council needs to get its skates on to secure this financial support."
A group for the over 50s is anxious to improve health and well-being among the older generation after it emerged that people in Enfield are living longer than ever before. Enfield Borough Council's Director of Public Health's annual report for 2014 shows the average life expectancy in the borough is now 80 for men and 84 for women. This is an increase from 79 for men and 83 for women in 2012 to 2013. Men in Enfield are expected to stay healthy until the age of 62, with women experiencing their first bouts of ill health at the age of 63. Monty Meth, the chairman of Enfield's Over 50s Forum, said, "While it's great news that Enfield is the top London borough for life expectancy, we have been anxious to increase the years of good health and close that 20-year gap when too many people still live with long-term ill health conditions. That is why we have encouraged more than 3,000 of our members to become members of our leisure centres, and we've had a conference aimed at increasing the years of healthy life expectancy. This is not only important for everyone in later life, but is vital if we are going to keep a free NHS. It is estimated the number of people with undiagnosed health conditions in Enfield is about 51,000 and includes problems such as high blood pressure. More than 2,600 are living with undiagnosed diabetes. 2,500 have coronary heart disease. 4,081 have kidney disease without knowing it. Councillor Roni Simbodal, Enfield Councillor's Cabinet Member for Culture, Sport, Youth and Public Health, said, "Our hard work is paying off because people in Enfield are living longer, healthier lives than ever before. But we mustn't be complacent because there is plenty of room for improvement and plenty of scope to continue to revolutionise the way public health is delivered in this borough."
Children who made films showing how adventurous they can be when playing outdoors picked up an award. Hounsfield Primary School in Edmonton was named the top school in London for adventure play at the London Adventure Play Awards. Pupils joined children from other schools at the Phoenix Cinema in East Finchley to see their film on the big screen and find out who had won prizes. Set to Pharrell Williams' song Happy, the Ripon Road School's film showed why children love playing in the school. It showed them getting their hands dirty in the garden, using recycling materials for role-playing games, digging, climbing and squirting water. Their prize was £500 of play equipment from Argos. Teacher Sandeep Kaur and Learning Support Assistant Tracy Hanberger led the school's entry. Sandeep said, "We were delighted to represent Hounsfield whilst receiving this award. The children are always very keen to explore their natural surroundings and question aspects of their familiar world."
2 men have been jailed after they were caught in a credit card scam, stealing more than £2 million worth of detailed banking information. Florin Ardell, 25, and Ian Flore, 33, both from Southgate, were sentenced to 2 years and 3 months and 3 years and 9 months, respectively, at the Old Bailey last week. The fraud was uncovered after a gang of men was seen acting strangely near an ATM in Mayfair. Officers from the Met Police dedicated check and plastic crime unit followed them back to an address in Southgate, where Ardell was seen dumping gift cards into a rubbish bin. They searched the house They searched the house and came across card skimming equipment with side camera bars and false ATM fronts, as well as computers and memory devices. The computers had more than 4,800 unique debit and credit card numbers on the hard drive, as well as software used to transfer the details onto blank bank cards for use in cash machines overseas. The stolen card details had a value of £2.5 million based on the average amount stolen from a duplicated card. Well, I'm jolly glad they were caught.
A teaching union is piling pressure on a school's governing body, saying nothing is being done to investigate a report commissioned by the council into the welfare of staff. Stuart McNamara, secretary of the Enfield branch of the NUT, says that if he and his 75 members at Lee Valley High School in Ballsmore Lane, Enfield, do not get the answers they are looking for in the next few weeks, they will take the unprecedented step of referring the entire governing body to School Inspectorate Ofsted. The standoff between the teaching union and the governing body of the Specialist Sports College erupted after the union delivered a dossier of serious complaints detailing a litany of concerns about the welfare of teachers at the school to the Director of Children's Services at the local authority. They did so using a whistleblowing policy that protects the identities of complainants who might be worried about being identified. When Enfield Council received the dossier, it brought in an independent investigator who compiled a 43-page report on the issues of concerns around welfare. The council then passed the report to the governing body of the school to start its own investigation or to take appropriate measures to help the teachers worried about their own health and well-being. However, in the 6 weeks since the report was delivered to the governing body, says Mr McNamara, that as far as his members are concerned, absolutely no action has been taken by the governing body, whom he is accusing of sitting on the report. Unless the chairman of the Board of Governors can tell us exactly what steps they are taking, we are going to refer the matter to Ofsted, he said. According to Mr McNamara, this would be a highly charged step, as Ofsted has the power to completely turn the governing body over and find out exactly what has been done in the 6-week period. Our members have followed procedure to the letter, he added. The way we put together the dossier to give to the council, protecting everyone's identity, we cooperated fully with the independent inspector. All we are asking is that the governing body uphold its end of the deal and take measures that would help our members. We know stress or worry is harmful to all involved, and ultimately, if these issues of teacher welfare are not resolved, it could lead to lower grades for students.
An Enfield fish and chip shop has the recipe for success after being acclaimed as the best in North London by the UK trade body for the business. Fish and Chips at Enfield London Road has received the National Federation of Fish Fries Quality Award for a second time. The award is a benchmark for selling quality fish and chips in a spotless environment. Husband and wife proprietors John and Dawn Francis are overjoyed. They did not open the shop and combined 100-seat restaurant until 3 years ago, and the award acknowledges all their hard work. We are delighted, said John, the brother who runs the shop. There is no secret to cooking good quality fish and chips. It's all about having a passion. You have to care, and we are always looking to improve. To gain the award, the business had to meet a checklist of stringent requirements following a thorough inspection, ranging from quality of food, hygiene, staff training, health and safety, down to how potatoes are stored and food is served. We gained the Quality Award in 2012, but it's only valid for 2 years, so we had to be inspected again recently if we hope to keep it for another 2 years, explains John. The inspector had to sample a plate of our fish and chips, and he seemed more than happy. He told me our business was one of the most professionally run he had been to. The shop has introduced some innovative offers, including lunchtime and evening deliveries, and discounted meals for the emergency services and NHS workers. Because we have modern premises with an eat-in restaurant, people might get the wrong impression that we are an expensive, posh chippy, added Dawn. But our prices are extremely reasonable and comparable with most other fish and chip shops.
An Enfield schoolboy is a happy tapper, having wowed some of the biggest names in dance with his stunning routine. Luke Lowry impressed professional stars Darcy Bussell and Wayne Sleep, who were in the audience, when he performed at the Royal Albert Hall as part of the annual Dance Prom Spectacular last week. The 12-year-old, who this summer became British Junior Tap Dance champion in a competition in Blackpool, joined 400 of the world's most talented dancers on the iconic Royal Albert Hall stage, where he was the only dancer to perform a solo. Luke, who lives in Hampden Way, Southgate, thrilled the audience with a tap number called Hey Pachuco. It is incredibly complex, this routine, because he has to dance a cappella without music for 1 minute before the music comes in. so he has to keep the rhythm with his feet, explained Michelle Aslanoff, principal of the Morgan Aslanoff Theatre School in Winchmore Hill, where Luke has been a student since he was 6. It was an incredible achievement because he was the only dancer to be selected to perform as a soloist, she added. Luke admits he was nervous as he had not returned from a trip to America for a family wedding in San Francisco until the previous day. I was surprised to be chosen, but both excited and honoured, he said. Was very nervous, but got a real buzz out of it and want to thank my dance teacher for having such belief in me.
Doctors, nurses and hospital employees are bristling with pride as they take on this year's Movember challenge to raise awareness about men's cancers. Men at BMI, the King's Oak and Cavell hospitals in Enfield will be growing moustaches of different shapes and sizes to support the annual event. Women have also been getting in on the fun by wearing stick-on moustaches to show their support. Now in its 11th year, Movember raises awareness around the signs and symptoms of prostate and testicular cancer to encourage men to be proactive about their health. Fayez Montaz, consultant urologist at BMI, said, "We all know that men can at times put their health in second place, and while we've seen a massive change to this perception in recent years, it's vitally important that all men are aware of what is normal for them and of the symptoms."
Police officers could be pushed to breaking point if designated contact points are shut, it has been warned. Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, was unable to confirm whether the contact points were due to be closed in Enfield when quizzed by GLA member for Enfield, Joanne McCartney, last week. During the mayor's question time, he told her, "We are reviewing them. Some work better than others, but I'm afraid I can't give you the answer." However, the mayor's office has since told the Enfield Independent there are no plans to shut any contact points across London. Police contact points were introduced after Winchmore Hill Police Station was sold and Southgate was downgraded to open 3 hours a week. Neighbourhood policing teams were also cut from 6 officers per ward to just 2. Figures show that since 2010, Enfield has lost 115 PCOs, who, according to Ms McCartney, make up the backbone of local neighbourhoods. Ms McCartney said, "When the London police stations were closed and opening hours reduced last year, there was real concern that there were further cuts to come. Boris Johnson's comments make that look significantly more likely. Now Boris Johnson looks set to make further cuts to the police contact points people rely on to report crime. Policing cuts are already having a real impact, with fewer officers on our streets and police stations to report crimes at. Further cuts and closures would push the police service to breaking point."
And so, as we've come to the end of side 1, please stop your machine, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2.